Hey, hello everyone. So, these are the topics that we have covered so far in our previous two videos, week 1.1 and week 1.2 of our free full stack cohort. So, the topics we have covered is JavaScript compiler and how the JavaScript compiler works. Then we have covered variables, let, var, and const, and what are the difference between them. Then simple primitive types and complex primitive types. Then we have covered the conditional statement if else and how it functions in JavaScript. Then we have covered loops, arrays, objects, and functions and how they work in JavaScript. So, in today's video, we are going to cover the topics we should learn before we start web development, and we should not go simply ahead and start learning web development if we are not comfortable with callbacks, anonymous functions, asynchronous JavaScript, and also some predefined JavaScript functions. So, in today's video, we are going to cover callbacks in JavaScript. So let's try to understand the concept of callbacks in JavaScript with a simple JavaScript program to calculate the sum of square of two numbers. So over here I have written a program to calculate the sum of squares of two numbers. So let's try to understand it thoroughly. So over here I have declared two variables a and b. A is assigned with 2 and b is assigned with 3. And over here I am calling sum of square method function and passing it the arguments 2 and 3 over here. So inside sum of squares, what I have done, I have called another function square of. So square of generally or basically it helps to calculate the square of a number, whatever which is passed to it. So over here, as you can see, I have also written a function to calculate the square of a given number. So first what it does, it calculates the square of 2, which is 4. Then it calculates the square of 3, which is 9, and returns 4 plus 9, which is 13. Okay, so I will run it. So as you can see, we have got the output as 13. So now let's take a scenario that you also need to find sum of cubes. So I will write the code for it. So now what we have done is that we have wrote two functions. One is to find sum of squares and one is to find sum of cubes. As you can see, the both of these functions are not exactly similar, but still the logic and the structure of these two functions are very much similar. So in the previous video we have learned that this particular scenario is against our dry principles. And what are dry principles? Is that don't repeat yourself. So suppose in future, let's take a scenario that you also need to find sum of quads, sum of penta, sum of hexa. So you can't just keep adding line of codes over here, which is doing ultimately same functionality, somewhat similar functionality, but you are just repeating yourself again and again if the requirement is such. So with help of callbacks, we can avoid this situation. So let's introduce callback over here. So let's try to understand what's the theory for callback functions. So any function that is passed as an argument to the another function so that it can be executed in that another function is called as a callback function. Okay, so this is the theory or definition for the callback function. So now let's try to understand callback functions practically with the help of the same example that we used previously, which is to find sum of square, sum of cubes or whatever. Okay, so as you can see in on line number 17, I have called a function called as sum of something. So what is sum of something? Over here you can see the sum of something have three arguments, and previously we were only passing two arguments over here, a and b. Okay, so in this particular in the new example we are using three arguments over here. What are those three arguments? First one is a and second one is the b. These are the two numbers which we need to calculate the sum of squares and sum of cubes. Okay, later on there is a third argument as well. So what is this third argument? Like I said, it passes as an argument to another function, any function that passed as an argument to the another function. So square of is nothing but the reference to our square of function, and cube of is nothing but reference to our cube of function. So as soon as I call sum of something and pass the argument of square of function over here, the control will reach over here, and as you can see inside the func variable, reference to the square of function method is been stored, and whenever I use func a, then square of function would be called, and whenever I use func b, similarly square of function would be called, and I will return s1 plus s2, and I will basically return sum of squares. In the next line I have passed third argument as cube of. So cube of will now get stored into the func. The func variable refers to the cube of function, and whenever I call func over here, it is calling cube of method, and this now will return the sum of cubes. Okay, so now what we have done is that we have removed this two block extra four lines, and we have converted into one main function sum of something, rather than individually calculating sum of square, sum of cubes, and sum of quad, sum of penta, etc. Now we have converted all these methods into as one single method with help of callbacks. So over here, as you can see, with help of callbacks, we have reduced these lines of code and combined these two different functions, sum of square and sum of cubes, into a single function, sum of something, by just passing an additional argument. The additional argument would be nothing but the name of the function which you need to execute in the this parent function. So this is nothing but callbacks. I hope you understood this topic. If not, then please add your queries in the comment. I would try to clear them and make a separate video on callbacks as well. So thanks for watching this video, guys. I hope you liked it, and stay tuned for the next one.